He waited for the right light. He waited longer for her. Leo was a photographer of moments, not just any moments, but those fleeting, almost invisible seconds when the world held its breath. He was known for his patience, a man who could spend an entire day perched on a cliffside just to capture the precise instant a sunbeam kissed a lone wildflower. His studio walls were a testament to this obsession. A raindrop caught mid-splash, a child's fleeting expression of pure wonder. The quiet dignity in an old man's wrinkled hands. Every photo told a story of waiting, but the story he was living was the longest wait of all. Her name was Clara. She wasn't a model, or an artist, or anyone famous. She was a librarian, a woman who moved through the world with a quiet grace that reminded Leo of the soft, diffused light he so loved. He first saw her in a small park, reading on a bench, a stray cat curled at her feet. The afternoon sun filtered through the leaves, creating a mosaic of light and shadow on her face. He raised his camera instinctively, but hesitated. This moment felt too personal, too sacred to just capture and keep. So instead, he just watched. He started visiting the park every day. At the same time, hoping to see her again. Sometimes she was there, lost in a book. Other times, the bench was empty, and Leo would feel a strange pang of disappointment. He learned her routine without ever speaking a word. He knew she liked jasmine tea from the little cafe on the corner, that she always wore a silver locket, and that she had a habit of tucking a loose strand of hair behind her ear when she was deep in thought. He took photos, but not of her directly. He photographed the bench after she left, the half-empty teacup she'd abandoned. The book she was reading, left spine up to mark her page. His studio began to fill with the ghost of her presence. It was a silent conversation, a one-sided love affair told through a lens. His friends would joke about it. Leah, the master of patience, finally stumped by a girl on a park bench. Just go talk to her. But for Leo, it wasn't that simple. His camera was his shield, the way he communicated with the world. Without it, he felt exposed, clumsy. Words were not his medium. Light and shadow were. How could he explain that he'd fallen in love with the way she existed in the world? With the quiet moments she created just by being. It sounded crazy, even to him. One autumn afternoon, the light was perfect, the air was crisp, and the leaves were a fiery explosion of red and gold. He saw her walking towards the bench, but this time she wasn't alone. A man was with her, laughing, his arm draped casually around her shoulders. Leo felt his heart sink. It was a feeling as sharp and sudden as a shutter click. He watched as the man handed her a bouquet of daisies, her favorite. Leo knew from the one time he'd seen her buy them for herself at the local market. He lowered his camera. The perfect light suddenly felt harsh and unforgiving. He had waited too long. The moment had passed, captured by someone else. He stopped going to the park. He tried to focus on other subjects, but everything felt dull. The light seemed flat, the moments empty. His photos lost their magic because the story behind them was gone. His studio, filled with her phantom presence, became a museum of what could have been. He packed away the photos of the bench, the teacup, the forgotten book. It was time to move on. Months turned into a year. Leo traveled, trying to find inspiration elsewhere. He photographed snow-capped mountains in Nepal and bustling markets in Morocco. His work was technically brilliant, but it lacked the heart, the soul that had defined his earlier pieces. He was just taking pictures now, not telling stories. He was back in his city, walking aimlessly, when he passed by a small gallery he'd never noticed before. The sound read, the echo of a moment. Intrigued, he stepped inside. The gallery was small and quiet. The walls were lined with charcoal drawings, and Leo stopped breathing. They were drawings of him. There he was, perched on the cliffside, waiting for the sun. There he was, crouched on a city street, capturing a splash in a puddle. Each drawing was a mirror of his own photographs, but from a different perspective. They showed the photographer, the waiter, the man behind the camera. His heart hammered in his chest. In the corner, by a drawing of him in the park, camera in looking towards an empty bench, stood Clara. She turned, a sketchbook in her hand, and her eyes met his. A slow smile spread across her face. "I always wondered," she said, her voice just as soft as he'd imagined, "what you were looking at." Leo couldn't speak. He just pointed to the drawing of him in the park. Clara's smile widened. "I used to sit on that bench," she said, "and watch you. You had this incredible focus, Tispatense. It was like you could see the beauty in things no one else noticed. You were my favorite subject." She gestured around the gallery. "You inspired all of this." Leo finally found his voice. A whisper. "I was taking pictures of you." Clara laughed. "A sound like wind chimes." "No, you weren't." "I looked. You took pictures of everything around me. The book I was reading. The cat. The empty cup. It was like you were trying to understand me without ever speaking to me." She took a step closer. "My brother and I are very close," she said softly, nodding toward a small sketch of the man with the daisies. "He was visiting from out of town that day." Leo felt a warmth spread through his chest, a light brighter than any sunbeam he'd ever chased. All this time he had been composing a story about her, while she had been composing a story about him. He had been the watcher, but he had also been the watched. The moment hadn't passed him by. It had just been waiting for the right time to develop. He looked at her, truly looked at her for the first time without a lens between them. He saw the silver locket, the curious glint in her eye, the faint charcoal smudge on her cheek. It was a perfect composition. "My name's Leo," he said, extending a hand that, for the first time in a long time, wasn't holding a camera. "I know," she replied, taking it. "I'm Clara." He waited for the right light. He waited longer for her. And in the end, she had been waiting for him, too. Sometimes, the most beautiful stories aren't the ones we capture, but the ones we step into. The ones that have been waiting, just out of frame, for us to finally put the camera down and say hello. Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed this story, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe for more. See you next time.